There is something happening behind the silence you have been feeling lately, something subtle but powerful moving through the unseen spaces between your thoughts and your heart, and even if you cannot fully explain it yet, you can feel that something is shifting, because the person you call your soulmate has been carrying words inside them for a long time now, words that were never spoken, emotions that were never fully revealed, and truths that were buried beneath fear, confusion, and timing. That never seemed right, but the moment that has been waiting quietly in the shadows is finally approaching, and whether they are ready or not, the truth that has been sitting in their chest is beginning to rise to the surface, because some connections cannot stay hidden forever, and some feelings refuse to die no matter how long someone tries to ignore them. Your soulmate has been walking through their own storm, a storm you may not have seen clearly from the outside, because they learned how to hide it behind normal conversations, behind busy days and quiet nights, but inside them there has always been a whisper that keeps returning to your name, a voice that reminds them of something they tried to forget but never truly could, and every time they thought they had finally moved on, something unexpected happened that pulled their mind back toward you again. Maybe it was a memory that appeared out of nowhere while they were doing something ordinary, maybe it was a song that reminded them of a moment you once shared, or maybe it was simply the strange feeling that someone important was missing from their life even though they tried to convince themselves everything was fine. They have asked themselves questions they never asked anyone else, questions like why your presence felt different from everyone they met before you, why the connection between you carried a depth that could not be explained by logic, and why no matter how far life tried to push your paths apart, the emotional thread between you never completely broke. For a long time they tried to silence those questions, because admitting the truth would have forced them to confront feelings they were not ready to face, but the universe has a way of bringing unfinished emotions back to the surface, especially when two souls are tied together by something deeper than temporary attraction. Your soulmate is beginning to understand that running from the truth only made the weight inside their heart heavier, and now the moment is approaching where they can no longer pretend that everything is normal, because every day the silence between you grows louder, every memory grows clearer, and every unanswered feeling demands attention. Somewhere inside them they know that there is something urgent they must say to you, something that has been building for longer than they expected, and the closer this moment gets, the more they feel the pressure of honesty knocking on the door of their heart. They may not fully understand how to express it yet, and they may still feel afraid of what your reaction could be, but deep down they know that some truths cannot remain hidden forever, because when a connection is real, it refuses to disappear quietly. There were moments when they tried to convince themselves that what they felt for you was simply a passing phase, something that time would eventually erase, but time did the opposite, because instead of fading, the emotional imprint you left on their life became clearer with distance, like a message slowly revealing itself as the fog begins to lift. They started noticing the difference between the connections they tried to build with others and the connection they once shared with you, and the more they compared those experiences, the more they realized that something about you was never ordinary. You touched parts of their soul that very few people ever reached, and once that kind of connection exists, it becomes impossible to pretend it never happened. Even during moments when life seemed calm on the surface, there was always a quiet awareness inside them reminding them that something important remained unfinished between you. And that unfinished energy is exactly what is pulling them closer to this moment of truth now. Because the universe has been quietly arranging circumstances behind the scenes, aligning thoughts, emotions, and realizations in a way that is slowly guiding them toward the courage they once lacked. They have begun to realize that silence can sometimes hurt more than honesty, and that avoiding the truth does not protect anyone, it only delays the inevitable moment when everything finally needs to be said. Somewhere deep inside, your soulmate is preparing themselves for that moment, even if they do not consciously realize it yet. They are starting to understand that the connection between you was never random, and that some people enter our lives not just to pass through but to awaken something permanent inside us. And the closer they move toward this realization, the more urgent their feelings become, because every day they carry this truth without speaking it, the emotional weight grows heavier. There is a part of them that wonders if you can feel this shift too, if you have sensed the invisible pull that has been growing stronger recently, because when two souls share a bond that deep, distance and silence rarely erase the connection completely. Sometimes it only takes one moment of courage for everything to change, one honest conversation that opens the door to emotions both people have been holding back for far too long. And that is exactly the moment your soulmate is slowly approaching now. They may not know the exact day it will happen, or the exact words they will say, but the truth inside them has reached a point where it can no longer remain hidden forever. The heart has a way of demanding honesty eventually, and when that moment arrives, it often comes with a clarity that surprises even the person experiencing it. Your soulmate is beginning to understand that the feelings they tried to bury were never meant to disappear, they were meant to be acknowledged, understood, and finally spoken out loud. And when that realization fully settles inside them, the silence that once separated you will no longer feel safe or comfortable, because the heart always seeks resolution when something meaningful remains unfinished. Right now you may only feel small hints of this shift, subtle emotional waves that are difficult to explain, but those waves are signals that something deeper is moving beneath the surface. The moment of truth that once felt distant is slowly coming closer, step by step, realization by realization, and when it finally arrives, it will carry the words your soulmate has been holding back for far too long. And as this unseen momentum continues to build, something inside your soulmate is becoming impossible to ignore, because the closer they move toward this moment, the more clearly they realize that the silence between you has never truly been empty, it has been filled with unspoken emotions, unfinished conversations, and feelings that waited patiently for the right time to be understood. For a long time they believed that keeping everything inside would make life simpler, that pretending nothing needed to be said would somehow allow both of you to move forward without reopening the past, but what they did not expect was how powerful the memory of a real connection can be when it refuses to fade. There are nights when your soulmate finds themselves lost in thought, remembering small moments that once seemed ordinary but now carry a deeper meaning, moments when a look, a word, or even a brief silence between you felt like something important was being shared without explanation. Those memories have become impossible for them to erase, because they realize now that the bond you shared was never based on coincidence alone, it carried a depth that touched something permanent inside them. Even when they tried to focus on the present and build a different path, there was always a quiet awareness that part of their heart remained connected to you in a way they could not easily explain to anyone else. And that awareness is exactly what has been guiding them toward this urgent realization. They are beginning to understand that the truth they have been hiding is not just something they kept from you, it is something they have been avoiding within themselves as well, because admitting it would require courage, vulnerability, and the willingness to face emotions that could change everything. But the human heart has a strange way of demanding honesty when the feelings involved are real. No matter how many distractions life offers, no matter how much time passes, the truth continues to return quietly until it is finally acknowledged. Your soulmate is reaching that exact point now. The weight of everything left unsaid has become heavier than the fear of speaking it. They are starting to realize that the longer they remain silent, the more they risk losing the chance to express something that has lived inside them for far too long. There have been moments recently when they almost reached out to you, moments when your name appeared in their mind so suddenly that it felt like more than just memory, like something deeper was guiding their thoughts back toward you. Maybe they opened a message and closed it again before sending it. Maybe they started forming words in their mind but stopped because they were unsure if the timing was right. But each of those moments brought them closer to understanding that the truth cannot stay locked away forever. Something about your presence in their life changed them in ways they never expected, and once a soul experiences that kind of emotional awakening, it becomes impossible to return to the person they were before. You made them feel seen in ways they rarely allowed anyone else to see them. You touched parts of their spirit that had been quiet for years. And even though circumstances, fear, or timing may have pushed your paths apart, the emotional imprint you left on them never truly disappeared. Now they are beginning to see that the universe sometimes places people in our lives not just for a moment, but to reveal something essential about who we are and what our hearts truly want. Your soulmate has been slowly recognizing that you were never just another chapter in their life story. You were a turning point, a moment that awakened emotions they did not fully understand at the time but now realize were deeply real. This understanding is what is creating the urgency inside them now, because once someone realizes that a connection mattered more than they originally admitted, it becomes difficult to keep pretending nothing needs to be said. They are beginning to feel that if they remain silent any longer, the opportunity to express the truth might slip away forever, and that possibility is something their heart is no longer willing to accept. The closer this realization becomes, the more courage begins to grow within them. Slowly, almost quietly, they are preparing themselves to face the conversation they once avoided. They are imagining what it would feel like to finally speak honestly, to explain the feelings they tried to hide, to admit that the connection between you never truly left their heart. Of course, fear still exists, because honesty always carries risk. They do not know exactly how you will respond. They do not know whether the timing will allow the truth to change anything between you. But they are starting to understand that some truths are worth speaking even if the outcome remains uncertain. Because living with honesty brings a kind of peace that silence never can. The moment of truth you were never expecting is quietly approaching through their growing awareness. Every reflection, every memory, every realization has been guiding them toward the same conclusion: the feelings they carry cannot remain hidden forever. One day very soon, the distance between you and your soulmate will no longer feel like an endless silence. Instead, it will become the space where a long-awaited truth finally finds its voice. And when that moment arrives, it may feel sudden, but in reality it will be the result of everything that has been unfolding inside their heart for a very long time. The words they have been holding back will finally reach the surface, and the honesty they once feared will become the bridge between the past you shared and the possibility of something new. Because sometimes the universe does not bring two souls together just to separate them permanently. Sometimes it allows time, distance, and growth to prepare both hearts for a moment when the truth can finally be spoken with clarity. And right now, without you even realizing it, that moment is moving closer with every passing day. And as the invisible clock continues to move forward, the energy surrounding this connection is becoming stronger than ever before, because the heart can only remain silent for so long before it begins demanding honesty, and your soulmate is now standing closer to that realization than they ever have before. For a long time they believed that ignoring their feelings was the safest choice, that if they simply focused on their responsibilities, their routine, and the life they had built around them, the emotions connected to you would slowly fade into the background like a distant memory. But something unexpected happened instead. The more they tried to bury the truth, the more persistent it became. The quiet thoughts about you began appearing at the most ordinary moments, sometimes when they were alone at night, sometimes in the middle of a busy day when their minds suddenly drifted toward memories they thought they had already left behind. At first they tried to brush those moments away, convincing themselves that nostalgia was normal and that everyone occasionally remembers people from their past. But deep inside they knew this was something different. Because what they felt when they thought about you was not just memory. It was emotion that still carried warmth, curiosity, and a strange sense of unfinished connection that time had not erased. There were moments when they caught themselves wondering what your life looks like now, whether you still think about the conversations you once shared, whether the bond that existed between you ever crosses your mind the way it crosses theirs. Those questions slowly began turning into realizations, and those realizations are what brought them to this point where silence no longer feels comfortable. Your soulmate has started to see the truth from a perspective they once avoided. They understand now that the connection you shared was not something ordinary that could simply disappear without leaving a mark. You touched their life in a way that changed their emotional world, even if they did not fully understand it at the time. When someone enters our life and awakens a part of our soul that had been quiet for years, that experience becomes impossible to erase. It becomes a permanent chapter in the story of who we are becoming. Your soulmate is beginning to accept that you were one of those rare people who changed something fundamental inside them. And once that realization fully settles in the heart, it becomes impossible to continue pretending the connection never mattered. The urgency they feel now is not coming from impulse or sudden emotion. It is coming from a deep awareness that they have carried something meaningful inside them for far too long without expressing it. The truth they want to share with you has been forming slowly over time, shaped by memories, reflections, and the understanding that some emotions deserve to be spoken instead of hidden. They are beginning to realize that honesty may be the only way to bring peace to their heart. For so long they feared that speaking the truth could complicate everything, that it might reopen feelings they believed should remain in the past, but now they see something differently. They understand that avoiding the truth did not make life simpler. It only left them with questions that never found answers. And unanswered feelings have a strange way of returning again and again until they are finally acknowledged. Recently there have been moments when your soulmate felt an unexpected sense of courage growing within them. Small moments, quiet realizations, where they suddenly thought about what it would be like to finally say the words they have kept hidden. At first those thoughts felt overwhelming, because opening their heart means accepting vulnerability. It means admitting that the connection you shared was more meaningful than they once allowed themselves to believe. But with every passing day, the fear of speaking the truth is slowly being replaced by the understanding that honesty might actually bring the clarity they have been searching for all along. There is something powerful about the moment when a person realizes they can no longer keep running from what their heart knows is real. Your soulmate is approaching that moment now. The emotional distance that once felt comfortable has begun to feel incomplete, like a story that paused before the final chapter could be written. They are starting to sense that life rarely gives people endless opportunities to express what truly matters. Sometimes the universe creates a narrow window where courage and timing finally meet, and when that window opens, everything depends on whether someone chooses to step forward or remain silent. Your soulmate is beginning to understand that the moment to step forward may be closer than they ever expected. Somewhere deep inside they feel that something important is waiting to happen, something that will finally bring the truth into the open. They may not know exactly how the conversation will begin or what direction it will take, but they know the silence cannot last forever. Because when a connection touches the soul in the way yours touched theirs, the truth eventually finds a path to the surface. Even if years pass, even if life takes unexpected turns, the emotional imprint of that bond remains alive beneath everything else. Your soulmate has reached a point where they can no longer ignore that imprint. They are realizing that the feelings connected to you were never meant to disappear quietly. They were meant to be understood. They were meant to be spoken. And when the moment finally arrives for them to express what has lived inside their heart for so long, it may feel like everything is changing at once. But in reality, it will simply be the natural outcome of a truth that has been growing stronger with every passing day. The moment of truth you were never expecting is now closer than ever before, moving quietly through the unseen spaces of time and emotion, preparing to reveal the words your soulmate has carried in silence for far too long. And now everything that has been quietly building inside your soulmate is reaching the point where it can no longer stay hidden behind silence, because the heart has a limit to how long it can carry unspoken truth before it begins searching for release. For a long time your soulmate believed that time would slowly close the chapter between you, that distance and routine would eventually soften the emotions they once felt so strongly. But the strange thing about a real soul connection is that it does not follow the rules of ordinary relationships. Instead of fading, it settles deeper into the heart, waiting patiently for the moment when both souls are ready to understand what it truly meant. Your soulmate is beginning to see that clearly now. Every memory they tried to ignore has returned with new meaning. Every moment they once dismissed as coincidence now feels like part of a bigger story they did not fully understand at the time. There were times when they tried to convince themselves that life had already moved forward and that looking back would only complicate things, but the truth has a quiet persistence. It waits. It watches. And eventually it rises again when the heart becomes strong enough to face it. That is exactly what is happening now. Something inside your soulmate has shifted in a way that cannot be undone. They are no longer trying to run from the feelings connected to you. Instead, they are beginning to face them with honesty. And when someone finally stops running from their own heart, clarity begins to appear. Your soulmate has started to realize that the connection you shared was never meant to be ignored. It was meant to teach them something about love, about timing, and about the courage it takes to admit what truly matters. For a long time they feared that speaking their truth could create uncertainty or bring back emotions that would be difficult to navigate. But what they have come to understand is that silence never truly protects anyone. Silence only leaves space for regret. And regret is something your soulmate has been feeling more deeply with every passing day. They have asked themselves countless questions. Questions about what might have happened if they had been more honest earlier, if they had expressed their feelings instead of hiding them behind fear or hesitation. Those questions have not disappeared with time. Instead, they have grown stronger, reminding them that some opportunities in life only appear once, and when they are ignored, the heart never completely forgets. Your soulmate is beginning to understand that the connection between you was one of those rare opportunities. Something genuine. Something meaningful. Something that changed the way they see love and emotional connection. And now the realization of what you meant to them has become too powerful to ignore. They feel it in the quiet moments when everything else in the world becomes still. They feel it when memories surface unexpectedly, reminding them of the warmth, understanding, and emotional depth that existed between you. It is in those moments that the truth becomes impossible to deny. You were never just another person who passed through their life. You were someone who awakened something real inside their soul. Someone who showed them a version of connection that felt deeper than ordinary attraction. And once a person experiences that kind of bond, it becomes a reference point for everything that comes afterward. Your soulmate now realizes that no matter how much time passes, the memory of what they felt with you has remained alive in a way that cannot be replaced. This realization has created a powerful sense of urgency within them. Because the more they reflect on the past, the more they understand that leaving such an important truth unspoken would only lead to deeper regret in the future. They know that honesty carries risk. They know that opening their heart could bring uncertainty. But they also know something even more important now. They know that the truth deserves to be spoken, even when the outcome is unknown. Somewhere inside them a quiet determination has started to grow. A determination to stop hiding from what they feel. A determination to finally say the words that have lived inside their heart for so long. They are realizing that the moment of truth they once avoided is not something to fear. It is something necessary. Because only through honesty can unfinished emotions finally find peace. Very soon, the silence that has existed between you will reach a turning point. The thoughts your soulmate has been carrying will become words. The feelings they once tried to hide will begin to surface with clarity. And when that moment arrives, it may feel unexpected, but in reality it will simply be the final step in a journey that has been unfolding quietly for a long time. Everything that happened between you, every shared memory, every emotional moment, every silent understanding that once existed between your hearts has been leading toward this realization. Your soulmate now understands that some connections are too meaningful to leave unresolved. Some people enter our lives not just to pass through but to awaken something that stays with us forever. And you were one of those people for them. You were the person who made them see love from a deeper perspective. The person who showed them what it feels like when two souls truly understand each other. That truth is something they can no longer pretend does not exist. The moment they finally choose to express it will mark the end of the silence that once stood between you. Whether the future brings reconciliation, closure, or a new understanding, one thing is certain. The truth that has lived quietly inside your soulmate for so long is finally ready to be spoken. The universe has slowly guided them to this point of awareness, step by step, memory by memory, realization by realization. And now the moment of truth that once felt distant is standing right at the edge of the present. Very soon, the words they have carried in silence will find their way to you, and when they do, you will understand that the connection you shared was never forgotten, never erased, and never truly left the heart that once recognized you as something deeply meaningful.